ending up doing the summary. So I'm reporting on behalf of the 50K Coalition Group. I will say that Carl Reed was there and you know, is really the major force behind this, and so in some sense can speak far better to this. But in sort of looking at it, we said, well, let's have somebody who steps back from a step rather than Carl telling you everything great they're doing, and you're going, yeah, well, okay, fine. So we actually had 3 questions as part of ours. The first was how engineering societies can share effective practices from the initiative. And the short answer to that is it is well in hand. This is absolutely part of the plan for what the coalition is doing. Webinars, organization around action groups in 6 common major agenda topics, and so meetings around those, creating online dashboards. I think one of the things that we didn't use these words, but I think that for all of us to remember that the 50K Coalition is young. It is a work in progress. It's had some really major successes, especially in funding, but there's still many, many things that can be done, and they're in progress. But the first one, absolutely part of the plan. Second, I think this is, okay, we got a mistyping here. The second question was supposed to be how can more societies get involved in the initiative? And there are 11 universities now. There are some societies associated. It's a scaling up question, and so I think the immediate answer is not yet. Not quite ready. There are things that have to be done. There are issues of resources. There's some data reconciliation things that really that the coalition needs to get its heads wrapped around. But also discussions about different models, mutually collective impact models that rely on saying we all have common goals. It's less reliant on being a member or not of the coalition. And so really trying to leverage what's going on as the coalition works towards the capacity to say, okay, we're ready for next, we're going to take in new members. And then the last question, which seems to be up here twice, framework for setting targets for the number of female and underrepresented minority faculty. Probably not integral in the sense that it is something that is hoped to come out of this, but not integral at this point for the coalition. But parallel efforts and a lot of agreement that it is important to do this. Also observations that one of the, you can put pressure from both sides. If you have more students, that puts pressure on saying, could we diversify the faculty? But also if you have more female and underrepresented deans, that is also one of the vehicles that can be effective and play a role in doing this, so not to lose sight of that. So the action plan, 3 actions with 2 timelines under each. First, accelerating the pace at which that additional societies and universities can become part of the coalition. It's a work in progress. The 30 days is to have that discussion with the leadership. The timing, we stretched the 3 weeks a little just as simply because Carl knows when their meetings are coming up, and the 30 days is a good timeline for that target. The second is it possible to be ready by then, and set that as a potential goal. Second action, for societies to get the word out, both towards potentially becoming members in the future, but also towards saying, where are our mutual shared goals that we could be working with in whatever context, just to make sure that we're knitting together more of the efforts. 30 days, and probably sooner than that, Carl's going to make sure that the coalition white paper is sent out to the societies so that there's some who hadn't heard about it. This is the first meeting they've heard about it. So this awareness raising, get that started immediately. And then in 6 months, within that 6 months following that, for the societies to take on. So we're going to discuss this within our society to say, how does this relate to who we are, what we do, our goals, what do we want to be working towards in this area? And then action 3, which was, let's set a target for number of female and underrepresented minority faculty. The question is, who does this? How does that get done? There are some, WEPAN has a goal, but we'll say that it's not a real well-grounded goal, and so can there be a community-wide? So figuring out what is that community, who are the relevant organizations, who should be feeding into these discussions about how do we build a process to get a baseline where we are now, and then develop a target that is both bold and realistic, including ownership of that target. So who's going to pay attention to this, track this, monitor this, nudge people and everything. 6 months, the draft target and the process associated with it. So that was the first group. And so, changing hats. second group, how can engineering societies improve the public perception of engineering via marketing a la NCAA?
So we had a number of different outcomes in our discussion. This whole issue revolves around the fact that as engineering entities, we don't do such a good job at marketing even the great things that amongst which we do. You all heard Darrell Pines give the talk this morning, and he discussed the fact that there was a large design competition ongoing even right now, and I'm sure that not everybody in this room knew about it, but definitely folk outside of this audience probably don't know about it that much as well. And so the question is, how do we develop mechanisms to kind of highlight what we do and thereby highlight the profession and make the profession more well known? So one of the outcomes here is to create a depository for information that actually highlights what's being done not only at the universities but also to highlight entities going on at the individual societies. We think societies are the best entity for these kinds of large-scale endeavors, primarily because societies tend to run across many different schools and many different disciplines. Okay? The second one here is the development of a what we call a large set of goals or big ideas that universities, societies, and the like can all work together on. A couple of areas that have bubbled up are on autonomous and driverless vehicles, a rocket to space, robots and AI are three areas where you can have large groups of individuals and teams come together. Different societies can sponsor or can have an aspect or can run a specific project, and thereby creating almost like a conference-like effect. And then these entities can then bubble up to a national project with a national outcome. The third item here is teaming up with experts in marketing. Many of the different engineering disciplines have outcomes, have projects. These tend to be narrowly focused in their discipline, and they tend to miss the overall outcome, and so which is promoting the profession. So if we brought a group or a consortia of societies together, got marketing help for that society, right, and then have that marketing entity promote the field in a broader sense, that would kind of expand or extend the discipline in that way. And then finally, the last item here is to develop outcomes and mechanisms that lead to utilizing, and I'm a little bit confused here with the, give me 1 second. The last one here is to develop a consortia or a group around the definition of the engineering discipline. You also saw this in Darrell's talk. Each of our individual societies have some very focused and others very, very broad definitions of what the discipline means. And for the public, what happens is people can't define what it is we do. And it's hard to define what it is we do because we give them so many different definitions of what it is we do, right? And engineering means one thing to NSBE, it means something else to SHIP, it means something else to SWE, it means something else to IEEE, it means something else to NSPE. And so getting together on a singular, general, more concise definition of engineering, a la the definition that Dan Mote has, would be a good first step for all organizations to have, to speak from that consistent definition, and then let your individual organizational definitions flow from that one. So those are the 4 items that came out of our discussion. Okay.
Excellent. Third up, what role can engineering societies play in helping engineering education align with the pace of change in the field? Okay. Carl.
Because I can't do it justice up here. So we had a really nice discussion in our small little groups on how societies can help keep engineering education up with the pace of change in industry. And one of the core principles we all discussed was that it is nearly impossible to try and get the information from industry into the curriculum and then to the students. And so there's an opportunity there for the societies to be directly providing that information on the pace of change, and there are a few different ways that could be achieved through engineering education. The first being a virtual society fair. Have any of you participated in a virtual career fair? It's about what I expected, one person. It is something that students really enjoy participating in because they're able to do it from the comfort of their dorm room or from the comfort of their computer lab or engineering lounge or whatever. And the industry enjoys it because they don't have to pay to send their recruiters out to 279 different locations throughout the year to interview students. And there is an opportunity there to do the same kind of thing with a society, or with this society, is targeting in one society fair faculty, so faculty know what engineering societies are out there and what resources are out there for faculty, and then one for targeting students to let them know what engineering societies are out there, both for them as students and then as they develop professionally and graduate and move on with their careers. A second item we discussed was from a society perspective, the need for engineering educators to inform their students about what's out there. A lot of engineering educators and professors encourage their students to be members of technical societies, but not necessarily discuss the professional societies that are also out there, which are important to their practice and their continued learning, and also provide insight on what is changing in the profession and in the field, both as it relates specific to their practice through the technical societies and then as it relates overall to the practice of engineering. Another item that we think would be really helpful in keeping engineering education to pace with industry, or at least bridging some of that gap, would be a central clearinghouse. And it's been talked about generally, but we talked about it in specific areas. A web-based system targeted to faculty with portions targeted to students, but targeted to faculty with really 3 major breakdowns. The first being student competitions. This would be an opportunity where design competitions of technical societies could all be placed so that faculty could go and see what different opportunities were available for their students to participate in. There could be a session on essay, vlog, blog competitions that societies have throughout the year, both scholarship as well as cash prizes or other opportunities. And then also K through 12 competitions where societies are looking for undergraduates to volunteer as mentors, as graders, as testers, those kinds of things, and those types of opportunities. The second area would be education that technical and professional societies provide. One being webinars for faculty, either to teach them about what an organization does, what it has to offer, or from technical societies on specific topic areas. AICHE has a program that they've invested in related to delivery of webinars, and SPE has a program. There's an opportunity there to move and really collaborate on getting the word out and getting these communications out. A second subset in there would be webinars for faculty to use in their classrooms to show students what the pace of technology is. And then the third would be undergraduate teaching modules, so actual materials that a professor could take and use in their classroom, whether it be a PowerPoint deck or teaching related to ethics, Socratic method questioning, those kinds of things that could be kind of off the shelf with some class time, but would be mostly prepared teaching materials. And then the third area of this Clearinghouse website that we envision being created, which would be amazing, would be conferences, so that the technical societies can provide information on student scholarships that are available for students or faculty to attend these types of conferences, technical conferences or professional conferences, conferences that are targeted specifically at students, getting the students together, and then also national society conferences where students are invited to attend. Perhaps there's a technical society or professional society conference that happens every year, but it's not specifically targeted to students, but students are invited and faculty are invited to attend for networking opportunities. So that was another area. There was some discussion. There are 2 pages of notes, so I'm not going to read them all to you, and I'm getting a timeout. But some mentioned the use of engineering bodies of knowledge. Although those are out there and they're interesting, they're on 6 to 8 year time cycles to be updated, and it's really difficult to say that that's keeping up with the pace of change, considering how quickly we're actually seeing changes in the field of engineering and industry. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Odie, would you please email your notes to Trump?
No, that's right.
They're legible. Mine aren't. So.
Okay. From the second round, what role can engineering societies play in influencing the criteria for faculty success, including promotion, tenure, and recognition?
Hello, my name is Tassos Levrindis. I'm Department Chair of the Department of Aerospace Engineering at Embry-Riddle University at Daytona Beach. I'm also the Chair of the Aerospace Engineering Chairs Association. So, reporting back to this group, and I apologize in advance if I miss or mispresent something. We had 2 little things that I'll put in the beginning. One as a goal that can be done shortly. One of them is ask ASEE to collect data for non-tenure track faculty. It appears that the data has been collected, including women and minorities, just for tenure track faculty. It's a small thing to add this to there because we need to keep track of all faculty. Second thing is that one person in our group suggested that maybe the societies can actually help with looking at the impact of publications beyond the citations. There might be impact in the broader society that is more difficult to measure. So maybe societies can provide some guidance to that. Then we got the whole thing about who is making the decisions. Decisions for promotion and tenure are made by chairs and deans. So the action items we had was towards these groups. Is that we need to have workshops for the chairs to see what are they doing and why and how they're mentoring and how they should mentor assistant professors and associate professors. It appears that ASME has been doing some of that, not all of it, and maybe this can be used as a model, and other societies can follow and talk with them and do that in their discipline things. And there are chairs meetings organized by all societies once or twice a year, so this could be part of these meetings, how to do that, how to change, to keep mentoring people and informing them what needs to be done. Now, the last item that we discussed is that at ASEE, once a year, there is a dean's meeting. So there, because this is the top leadership for engineering, this issue of promotion tenure can be brought up, and the idea or the way to look at it is broaden the lens. These are words that were used in the group. Broaden the lens that we're looking at this. We want to include things that are currently covered by the professors of practice and teaching faculty in addition to what we already have. And start this discussion going, because one idea that was mentioned is that the current formula for professional practice and teaching faculty to be non-tenure track creates second-class citizens. One idea is to put these activities in the promotion and tenure, so you have you throw out these terms, and everybody is a professor, but some of them have different areas of expertise, which could be teaching or practice or however you want to call it. And then the last thing that was mentioned is that can the same group, because this is a term that is 1 year goal, these people meet once a year, can the same group of the deans talk with the newest news and world agencies so they can try to change the rankings about how it will be done to include some of these activities. And then we stop with thinking that this might be easier said than done. We have to develop new metrics, and I think somewhere there we run out of time. Let me add one more thought: is that you have to change all these people's minds. Let me share you my joke what was told to me when I took over as a chair. People ask me what's the difference between a full professor and a terrorist, and we all know the answer. You can always negotiate with a terrorist. The point of the joke is that for full professor it's very difficult to change their mind about anything, including the promotion and tenure process. So part of the mentoring that has to be done is not only for assistant and associate professor, but also the full professor, the people that are going to vote. And this is probably easier said than done. So let me stop here.
Okay, number 5. How can engineering societies undertake joint projects and design competitions using the Grand Challenges framework?
Hey, good morning, everyone. Again, my name's Bert Dicht from IEEE. This is a really important topic, and we had a really great, enthusiastic team, but we also thought we needed to bring in a consultant. So just wanted to show you who we brought in. So it looks like everyone's paying attention. Great. He provided what can I say, Jim? Keep the day job, okay? But it's a really, really interesting topic. And before we got into looking at our timeline, we decided to discuss some of the issues associated with trying to do a joint competition or joint challenge. Number one, obviously staff and volunteer bandwidth. This is going to take some effort from all of us if we're going to make this happen, and we'll need to balance that out. We also need to engage industry to be part of this, and so working on a plan to do that will be a priority. We also wanted to, there was a big discussion about top-down or bottom-up and how you handle this, how do we approach the start of this. And we realized if we're going to get society buy-in, we need to start at the top, meaning volunteers, staff, especially if you're talking about time and investment, money, and so on. But we are going to absolutely involve all the stakeholders as this is developed, meaning the professors, meaning the students, and so on in industry. We also discussed looking at existing competitions like the P3 competition as an example. Can existing competitions be possibly repackaged and use that type of thing instead of trying to create a whole new type of competition? So that's one of the things we'll be doing. We also want to engage other discipline associations, meaning maybe law, business, medicine. This isn't just interdisciplinary within engineering. Can we involve other aspects and other disciplines? And possibly can these projects or competitions align with capstone projects? So those were just some framing issues that we had. In terms of our timeline, we're going to take a lead from Leia's group, and we adjusted our timeline a little bit to possibly 3 to 6 weeks, just because there's so many things we might want to take a look at. But AAES has agreed to serve as a facilitator to try to bring the societies together. They're also going to work to curate existing society competitions. I know we're doing a lot of things out there, and maybe create an initial database. So that could help us and get some initial buy-in for the plan. We had, again, a great group. So you see the list of these societies that have expressed initial interest. So everybody there that's listed has expressed interest, and they didn't commit to anything. No one said, well, you're on the hook for anything. This is just initial interest. So we're actually going to start with an initial meeting between AAES, NAE, ASEE, and IEEE, just to put some outlines together of what the competition how this might work between the societies, the competencies that were going to be required, and developing a communication plan, because we're obviously going to want to invite other societies that were not part of this meeting and get them to be part of the process. Again, also, as I mentioned in the last slide, start researching those existing projects like P3 and seeing what we can use, and also coming up with an initial industry outreach plan to get them involved. On the 6-month side, we really want to be able to finalize which societies will take part in this joint competition by 6 months out. And within that part, define the competition framework, what are we going to be doing, and how the NAE Grand Challenges align to that, define what society roles and responsibilities we have, come up with an initial competition timeline. Do we want to try to start this in 2018, for example, a marketing communication plan to get this out to the universities, to get these out to the students so they can take part in it. And one ambitious piece there is there's a Global Grand Challenges Summit that's going to be taking place in July, and if we can possibly have some initial information or an initial plan and be able to announce it at that time. That's a goal. It's ambitious, but that's what we're aiming for. So again, it was a great group, great discussion, and I'm really excited about the opportunity here. So if you weren't part of this discussion and you want to take part, just let us know, and we're looking forward to making some great progress over the next few months. Thank you. Jim.
Is this intended to be a student competition?
Student, yes.
Not members, practitioners, not faculty?
Student competition, yes. Should have clarified that. Good point. Okay, thanks everybody.
Okay, last up, what's the role of engineering societies in providing training as part of engineering education? And it's Anne.
We, too, had a wonderful discussion. I think we may see that some of the things that we discussed kind of come into some of the other discussion we had on how we are looking forward in engineering education. How do we kind of keep up with what's going on? But one of the interesting things we talked about was, could ABET serve as a place, a convener of societies to come together and develop workshops for faculty, as far as developing how they're going to be teaching in engineering education, how they're doing their teaching, how they're taking in some of the things that societies do. Maybe they could co-sponsor faculty workshops. We talked about a gap assessment. Is there really a gap? What do faculty say is missing from the professional piece, but what, more importantly, do societies say that our graduates are missing? We've had some of those papers come out and some of those articles. Maybe it's time to look at that again and see if things have changed based on what we've done. The idea of, we talked a little bit about K-12. We tried not to focus on that too much, but how do we prepare teachers then in K-12 so that we are starting to get the pipeline then that's coming into our universities? Are there things we can learn about the training of K-12 teachers that we might be able to apply to the training of engineering teachers or to the training of our students to then teach in K-12? And I would say the last thing, which I thought was a really great idea, and I know some folks have already put that down as one of their action items, is developing a connection with specific faculty members in departments. How can those societies identify those faculty members who can be strong advocates for what is happening in the society, as well as the kinds of tools that are available through the societies, the webinars, the podcasts, things like that that are going to help in training. How can you connect directly with a specific faculty member who can then kind of disseminate that information more broadly to have that champion within a department that can really help to move things forward within the department? Did I miss things that people wanted to say? Yep, great, thank you.
You can now stand in the back like I did before.
Great, thank you.
Okay, So, really this last part is to just quickly run through what is next for this, and there are specific things so I think based on especially the opening yesterday from Proctor Reed and Elliot's NSF perspective on this is a project that it's a grant from the National Science Foundation to the National Academy of Engineering for the purpose of exploring this space, convening, so the Academy's role as a convener to create the opportunities to have these discussions about what is the role or what could be the role of engineering societies in undergraduate education. So immediate next steps, as part of that project, there will be regional sessions that are going to build on what happened here, and so it's not going to start from scratch. We're having a steering committee meeting like immediately after this to take into account what did we hear here, what did we learn, and how does that start to shape these regional sessions. So it's a way of starting to push out the ideas that came out of this and to get reactions from a broader and in some cases perhaps different community. Individually, Karen Peterman, who is over there, back there, got it, will be following up with you for evaluation of this, but also some more survey work to come out of this project. We've mentioned a couple times at the beginning that there is a website for this effort. The project website, and it's probably in the emails that you got also, but it's www.nae.edu/projects/126089, and the material, some of the material, the survey responses, the analysis of the survey, the pre-workshop survey is already up there. As we noted, a summary of the literature search, the web page analyses will be going up there within the month, but also the presentations and the material. So from Daryl Pines' presentation plenary this morning, those slides and the video of that will be available, because I think I've heard people asking, can we get a copy of his presentation? That will be posted on the website. One of the requests that went out early on in parallel with the literature search, but also with the survey, was still looking for testimonials, because this idea of collecting activities, what are you doing? I know that Don in one of his groups explicitly said to people, we need to collect what you're doing, send them in, and by all means send them to Don, that'll be great. Send them to Ken too, because one of the intentions here is to collect what is happening and to be able to make that available. One of the parameters about this being a National Academy activity is that there's not going to be a value judgment. One of the things that's clear, this is a workshop. The Academy is not going to be making recommendations. That's a very different process for how the Academy does that and what's required to do that, and that was never the goal here. So it's not going to be perhaps labeled best practices, because best has implications about somebody having evaluated it and then how did they do that. But how we have this vehicle for collecting summaries of activities, things that you are doing, and getting them in a place that we can direct people to say, you want to see what's happening in this area, go to it. The Academy's role, the committee's role is to explore this. But at the end of the day, so we just heard reports from 6 breakout groups around 6 really major topics that have the potential to change how people look at us, how we think about ourselves, how we get involved, what goals have we say they rise to the top that we got to be paying attention to this. And that's been a product of this workshop. But at the end of the day, if it's going to happen, you're going to make it happen. I will include me in the we. We're going to make it happen, but it's not the Academy. I'm looking at Ken. Ken's like, the Academy's not going to make it. The Academy's not going to own any of these projects directly. As work proceeds on them, there are opportunities to say who will fund this, who will want to run with it, how does this come out of this, are there further work, and some of that's going to happen in the planning that you do in the next 6 months. But when it really comes down to it, if these ideas are to go further, it's going to take this community, it's going to take the community of the societies in partnership with the communities relevant academics, the communities of industry. And so this is the last part. We're distributing envelopes, and Ken's going to explain what happens with this.
Yeah, I see people putting the envelopes away. Take them out again. You're not leaving with those. The idea here is there's 2 cards in each of your envelopes. We want you on one card, on a single card, write down what you're going to do, what action item you're going to do, again, in the next 3 weeks and the next 6 months. You keep that card. You take that card with you to remind you what you promised us to do. Write down the same exact information on the second card and put it in the envelope and put your address on the envelope. Because what we will do is in 6 months, we will mail that envelope back to you to remind you what you said you were going to do. Now, this was Leia's idea, and I think it's a great one. It's worked before, so make sure that you fill out those 1 cards, take the 1 card with you, put the second card in the envelope, address the envelope, and leave them back here with Carl or myself. And then that way, we'll keep the process going.
Okay. Wrap up by thanking again the steering committee that has worked really, really, really hard and intensely. I was going back over my notes for this, and based on one of the phone calls Ken and I had for last night's dinner, my note said, intense working meeting. That was about right. So to thank the members of the steering committee again, to thank Ken, steering committee. Certainly to thank Ken and Carl and Amy and Albert, who are the fellows, the NAE fellows, who've been working so hard and supporting us. Proctor for keeping us all on track and supporting us. So thank you all. And a huge thanks to all of you, because it was your inspiration, your energy, your insights, your commitment that have really kept these conversations going, but growing over the course of the last 2 days. And with we hope we'll keep it going through the individual actions that are going to happen. And so with that, again, lunch out there, you can take it here or at the breakout rooms we've been using. And once things go up on the website, we'll probably send something out saying go look at the website. Yeah, and so you'll be hearing from us about as things get posted, so you can have access to the records from this. And also you'll be hearing from us in 6 months to say, so how's it going? So thanks all very much.